Tonight, we travel back thousands of years to stand beneath the silent, mysterious giants of Stonehenge and listen to the secrets of the ancient plains. But first, come inside, out of the dark. You are safe here. The world outside cannot touch you within these walls. If you find peace in this sanctuary and wish to find your way back to us another night, please consider subscribing. Think of it as keeping a key to the library in your pocket. Now, settle in. The book for tonight is already waiting on the reading desk, heavy and bound in cloth as grey as a storm cloud. Let us open the worn cover together. Our story begins. Imagine yourself standing in the centre of a vast open world where the horizon stretches out so far that the sky seems to curve down to meet the earth in a gentle grey embrace. We are here on the Salisbury Plain as it exists today, a place that feels less like a specific location and more like a canvas of endless green and pale white, waiting for a story to be told. The wind here is never truly still. It is a constant, living presence, a breath that travels from the distant sea, rolling over the hills and dipping into the shallow valleys with a soft, persistent sigh. You can feel it against your skin, cool and damp, carrying with it the mineral scent of rain that has just fallen or is about to fall, a smell of wet earth and bruised grass that fills your lungs and slows your heart. Look down at your feet. Beneath the thin, trembling layer of topsoil lies the secret of this landscape. It is the chalk, a thick, immense plate of white stone, formed millions of years ago when this entire world was submerged under a warm, tropical ocean. If you were to kneel and brush away the tangled roots of the fescue grass, you would find it there, stark and bright, crumbly to the touch. It leaves a fine white dust on your fingertips, like the flour of a baker or the ash of a long-forgotten fire. This chalk is the bone of the earth, here. It does not hold water like clay, nor does it shift easily like sand. It drinks the rain greedily, pulling the moisture deep down into the dark aquifers below, leaving the surface dry and firm, a perfect foundation for things that are meant to last forever. As you walk across this plain, the sensation under your boots is unique. It is springy yet solid, a resistance that feels ancient and unyielding. The grass here grows in tufts and waves woven together by wildflowers that hug the ground to escape the wind. When the gusts pick up, the entire plain seems to move. It ripples like the coat of a great sleeping beast, shifting from emerald to silver as the blades of grass are turned over, exposing their pale undersides to the weak sunlight. There is a hypnotic rhythm to this movement, a swaying back and forth that mimics the tides of the ocean that once covered this place. It lulls you into a trance, a quiet state of observation where the worries of the modern world begin to dissolve, carried away on the breeze that combs through the vegetation with the patience of a mother tending to a child's hair. The light here has a peculiar quality. Because the land is so high and so flat, the clouds cast distinct racing shadows that slide across the fields like phantom ships. You can watch a patch of sunlight travel from 1 mile marker to another, illuminating a ridge, then a cluster of hawthorn bushes, then fading back into the grey. It creates a sense of drama, a silent theatre where the scenery is constantly being repainted by the sun and the mist. Even today, with the distant hum of roads and the occasional glint of a car windshield on the horizon, the overwhelming feeling is one of solitude. You are small here. The sky is too big, the earth too wide. It is a landscape that demands humility, forcing you to recognize that you are just a temporary visitor on a stage that has stood for eons. Now, let us strip away the present. Let us close our eyes to the telephone poles and the fence lines. Let us silence the distant roar of the engines and the hum of electricity. We are drifting back, sinking through the layers of time, down through the centuries, past the wars and the kings, past the Romans and the Celts. We arrive in a time of profound, heavy silence. The landscape remains, but it is wilder now. The grass is coarser, untamed by grazing sheep. The air is sharper, cleaner, free from the smoke of industry, smelling only of ozone and crushed herbs. In this ancient version of the plain, there are no roads. There are no straight lines drawn by surveyors or engineers. The only paths that exist are narrow, meandering trails woven through the brush, beaten down by the hooves of aurochs and red deer over thousands of years of migration. These are the veins of the land, pulsing with the slow, rhythmic movement of animals seeking water or shelter. Walking here now requires more attention. You must watch for the sudden dip of a rabbit hole or the slick, exposed chalk that can send you sliding if the morning dew is heavy. The ground is uneven, shaped only by the elements and the creatures that live here. The silence of this prehistory is not empty. It is a dense, textured silence. It is filled with the tiny, intricate sounds that our modern ears have forgotten how to hear. The snap of a dry twig under the weight of a fox, the rustle of a beetle navigating the labyrinth of grass roots, the cry of a bustard echoing across the flat expanse, a lonely sound that emphasizes the emptiness. Without the background noise of civilization to drown them out, these sounds become significant. They are the language of the plain. The wind sounds different here too. Without buildings to break its flow, it builds up speed and sings a low, mournful note as it passes over the ridges, a continuous hum that vibrates in your chest. Imagine standing on a small rise in this untouched world. The sun is setting, casting long, violet shadows that stretch out for miles. The temperature drops rapidly as the light fades, the chalk beneath you radiating the last warmth of the day before turning cold and hard. There is a palpable sense of waiting. The land feels expectant. It is a stage that has been set but remains empty of its main actors. The white earth glows softly in the twilight, luminous and ghostly, as if it is aware of its own potential, aware that it is destined to hold something of great weight and significance. But for now, it just waits. It breathes in the darkness, settling under the vast, star-filled dome of the night sky, a sky so crowded with light that it looks like spilled milk. As the darkness deepens, the character of the plain shifts again. We move into the realm of the first whispers, the subtle energies that gathered here long before the first stone was dragged into place. In the valleys that dip down from the high plain, where the moisture collects and the wind is less fierce, great forests of oak and hazel stand guard. These are not the polite, managed woodlands of today. These are ancient, tangled giants, their trunks thick with moss, their branches gnarled and interwoven like the fingers of sorcerers. Walk with me down into the tree line. The air here is still and heavy with the scent of decay and rebirth. It smells of wet bark, of mushrooms pushing up through the leaf litter, of ferns that have been crushed by passing deer. The canopy above is thick, blocking out the starlight, creating a cavern of shadows where the imagination begins to stir. These trees have stood here for centuries, silent witnesses to the changing seasons. They are the first keepers of the plain's secrets. When the wind moves through their upper branches, the leaves whisper together, a sound like 1,000 hushed voices sharing a confidence. It is in these wooded valleys that the fog begins. It does not fall from the sky, it seems to seep out of the earth itself, rising from the damp soil like a spirit, escaping a tomb. It starts as thin tendrils, white and wispy, curling around the trunks of the oaks, softening the sharp edges of the world. Then it thickens, knitting together into a dense, opaque blanket that swallows the landscape whole. Watching the fog roll in over the Salisbury Plain is like watching the world being erased. First the distant hills vanish, then the edge of the forest, then the ground at your feet, until you are suspended in a void of swirling grey. This fog changes the acoustics of the land. Sounds are dampened and distorted. A bird calling from 100 yards away sounds as if it is right beside your ear. The snap of a branch sounds like a thunderclap. It creates a sense of intimacy and isolation, wrapping you in a cocoon where the only reality is the immediate, unseen circle around you. In this mist, time loses its meaning. Minutes stretch into hours. You can feel the moisture settling on your face, cold and clinging, beading on your eyelashes and chilling your skin. It is here, in the embrace of the fog and the ancient oaks, that the first true whispers of the past can be felt. It is not a sound you hear with your ears, but a vibration you feel in your bones. It is the sensation of being watched, not with malice, but with a deep geological curiosity. The land knows you are here. The chalk, the water, the trees, they all possess a slow, slumbering consciousness. Before the builders came, before the rituals and the sacrifices, the place itself had power. The plain was not just a location, it was a presence. You can feel it in the way the hair on your arms stands up when you cross certain unseen boundaries. You can feel it in the sudden drop in temperature in a hollow where the sun never quite reaches. You can feel it in the way the birds suddenly fall silent, as if waiting for a command. This is the genius loci, the spirit of the place, waking up. It is a raw, elemental force, waiting for a shape, waiting for a focus. Imagine the dawn, breaking over this fog-shrouded landscape. The light is grey and diffuse, filtering through the mist to turn the world into a wash of pearl and silver. The great oaks appear as silhouettes looming out of the white like islands in a sea. The air is cold and biting, smelling of wet stone. Slowly the sun burns through the upper layers of the fog, and the white curtain begins to lift. The plain is revealed again, glittering with dew, silent and vast. But something has changed. The waiting is nearly over. The silence is no longer just an absence of noise. It is a held breath. The white chalk underfoot seems to vibrate with anticipation. The wind that combs the grass is no longer just moving air. It is a messenger, carrying the scent of wood smoke and sweat from distant fires. The paths made by the deer are being crossed by other footprints now, footprints that are heavier, more purposeful. The whispers in the oak trees are growing louder, turning into a murmur of intent. The stage is set. The canvas is prepared. The plain of waiting is ready to receive its burden, ready to become the anchor for a mystery that will outlast the forests and the fog. We are standing on the precipice of creation, feeling the heavy, quiet heartbeat of the earth before the first stone strikes the ground. To understand the stone, we must first understand the wood. Before the first great sarsen was ever dragged from its resting place, the world of these builders was a world of timber and thatch. It was a living, breathing, and dying world. Close your eyes and smell the village as it would have been 5,000 years ago. The air is thick with the scent of damp oak, of sap bleeding slowly from cut trunks, of hazel hurdles woven tight against the wind. It is a warm, organic smell, but it carries with it the inevitable perfume of decay. Wood, for all its strength, is mortal. It remembers the forest. It remembers how to rot. Imagine standing before a great timber post carved with the faces of ancestors whose names are slowly being forgotten. You reach out a hand to touch it. The wood is soft, yielding slightly under your thumb. It feels fuzzy with a coat of green moss that has taken root in the deep grooves of the carving. Near the base, where the post meets the wet earth, the timber is black and spongy. The beetles are already there. The fungi are already feeding. You can hear the faint ticking sound of woodworms, the clock of decomposition counting down the days until this monument falls back into the soil. This was the sorrow of the Neolithic mind. They built homes for their living and shrines for their dead, but the rain was a relentless thief. Every winter, the frost would bite into the grain, splitting the fibres. Every summer, the sun would bleach the colour to a ghostly grey. They watched their sacred spaces crumble within a single lifetime. A father might raise a totem, but his grandson would watch it collapse. There was a desperate, aching need for something else, a hunger for permanence, a desire to pause the endless cycle of birth and rot. And so, the dream begins. It is a dream of texture and temperature. It is a dream of a material that does not drink the rain, a material that breaks the teeth of the frost. It is a shift in consciousness, turning away from the warm, fleeting life of the forest and looking toward the cold, silent eternity of the earth's bones. They needed a substance that felt like forever. They needed stone, but not just any stone. They needed the hardest, heaviest, most enduring rock the land could offer. We travel now, in our minds, northwards from the plain. We cross the river valleys and climb the gentle slopes until we reach the high ground of the Marlborough Downs. Here, the landscape changes. The grass is shorter, bitten close by the wind. And here, scattered across the rolling hills like the aftermath of a giant's game of marbles, lie the stones. From a distance, in the dim light of a cloudy afternoon, they look uncannily like a flock of sheep grazing on the hillside. This is why, centuries later, they would be called the grey weathers. They are grey, rounded shapes, huddled together in the hollows or standing solitary on the ridges. But as you walk closer, the illusion shatters. These are not soft creatures of wool and flesh. They are immense, brooding hulks of sarsen. Sarsen. The word itself sounds like a hiss of wind over rock. It is a stone born of sand, grains of silica bound together by a cement harder than steel, formed millions of years ago under a tropical sun, and then left stranded here when the softer chalk around them eroded away. Approach one of these great boulders now. Let us examine it with the eyes of a person who has never seen a brick or a steel beam. It sits heavily in the grass, sinking slightly into the turf under its own impossible weight. The colour is not a uniform grey. It is a landscape in itself. There are patches of pale lichen, circular and spreading like frozen ripples on a pond in shades of seafoam green and sulphur yellow. There are streaks of dark iron staining the surface where the rain has run down for 10,000 years. Reach out your hand, place your palm flat against the flank of the stone. It is cold, a shocking, deep cold that seems to suck the heat right out of your blood. It feels indifferent to you. Unlike wood, which warms to your touch, the stone remains aloof. Now move your fingertips across the surface. It is not smooth. It is textured like the skin of a great ancient elephant. It is wrinkled, pitted, and rough. There are hollows where water has pooled and frozen, popping out tiny grains of sand, leaving behind little craters. There are bumps and ridges that feel like old scars. It is a tactile map of endurance. You can feel the grittiness of the silica, a sandpaper toughness that speaks of an absolute refusal to yield. If you were to run your fingernail across it, it would leave no mark. The stone would simply file your nail away. This texture, this elephant skin roughness, is hypnotic. It invites you to trace the grooves, to explore the landscape of the rock. It feels incredibly dense. Even without lifting it, you can sense the density, the tightly packed atoms holding together against the chaos of the universe. It smells of nothing but clean, cold mineral and the ozone of the wind. It is a silence made solid. In the dream of the architects, these stones were not just materials. They were spirits. They were the sleeping gods of the landscape. To move them would be to wake them. To shape them would be to negotiate with them. Now, imagine the ritual of selection. It is early morning on the downs. The mist is still clinging to the bottoms of the valleys, a white sea from which the hilltops rise like islands. A group of men stands before a massive recumbent sarsen. They are not labourers yet. Today they are judges. They are the listeners. One of them, an elder with hands calloused from a tear, lifetime of flint knapping, steps forward. He does not rush. In this time, nothing is done with haste. He walks around the stone, his feet crunching softly on the dry grass. He is looking for flaws. He is looking for the hidden cracks, the hairline fractures that might cause the stone to shatter when they try to move it. He leans in close, his face inches from the rough grey surface. He runs his hands into the crevices, probing the dark hollows where spiders have spun their webs. He is feeling for the grain of the stone, though sarsen has no true grain. He is feeling for its structural integrity. He takes a small round hammerstone from his belt. It is a hard black river pebble. He strikes the sarsen. Clack. The sound is high and sharp. It rings out across the quiet hillside, a sudden bright note that hangs in the cold air. Clack, clack, clack. He moves around the boulder, tapping it in different places. He is listening to the voice of the stone. A dull, thudding sound would mean the stone is rotten inside, full of faults and air pockets waiting to break. But this stone sings. The sound is clear and bell-like. It tells him that the rock is solid, a single unbroken unity of silica from end to end. It tells him that this stone is strong enough to endure the journey, strong enough to stand upright, strong enough to hold up the lintel of the sky. But there is more than just engineering here. There is a spiritual weighing. The elder places both hands on the stone and closes his eyes. He presses his forehead against the cold, rough elephant skin. He breathes in the scent of the lichen. He is asking a question. Are you the one? Are you willing to come with us? He waits. The wind whistles softly over the top of the boulder, ruffling his hair. He feels the vibration of the earth through the soles of his feet. He feels the sheer, immovable presence of the rock against his skull. It feels anchored, heavy, stubborn. But beneath that stubbornness there is a dormant power, a potential. This stone has been waiting, just as the plain has been waiting. It has been sitting here since the dawn of time, gathering the moonlight and the rain, storing them up for a purpose it does not yet understand. The elder pulls back. He opens his eyes. The grey surface glitters faintly, tiny quartz crystals catching the weak morning light. He nods once. This is the one. This is the anchor. The other men move in. They do not cheer. They do not shout. They simply touch the stone, each of them making contact, acknowledging the pact that has just been made. They run their hands over the cold flanks, familiarizing themselves with the weight they will soon have to bear. They learn the shape of it, the places where a rope might hold, the places where a lever might slip. This is no longer just a rock on a hill. It has been chosen. It has been named. It has been elevated from a part of the landscape to a part of the story. The dream of stone has become a reality. The grey. Weather, the sleeping sheep of the downs, is about to wake up. As they turn to leave, to gather the ropes and the sledges, the stone remains behind for one last moment of solitude. The sun breaks through the clouds, casting a long, sharp shadow behind the boulder. The texture of the rock stands out in high relief, every pit and wrinkle magnified by the light. It looks ancient, it looks eternal, it looks ready. The wind picks up, swirling around the base of the stone, bending the grass flat. It whispers against the rough surface, a sound like sandpaper on silk. The transition is complete. The age of wood, of rot and decay, is ending in the minds of these men. The age of stone, of cold, hard permanence has begun. And the weight of that permanence is about to be felt, not just in the mind, but in the muscles and sinews of 1,000 people as the great dragging begins. We must leave the open, chalky expanses of the Salisbury Plain behind us now. We must let our spirits drift westwards, travelling on the back of the wind, over forests and rivers, until the land begins to rise and crumple. We are journeying to a place of jagged silhouettes and weeping skies. We are going to the wild edge of the world. We are going to the Preseli Hills in the land we now call Wales. Here the earth feels different. It is not the white, dry bone of the chalk. It is dark, ancient, and sodden with rain. The air hangs heavy with moisture, a constant drifting mist that clings to your skin and soaks into your clothes within moments. It smells of wet wool, of deep peat bogs, and the sharp, salty tang of the Irish Sea, which churns against the cliffs not far away. In these hills the silence is not the expectant hush of the plain. It is a brooding silence, broken only by the cry of a raven or the bleating of a goat lost in the crags. High up on the ridges, piercing the mist like the spires of a sunken cathedral, stand the rocky outcrops of Carn Menin. This is a sacred place. You can feel it in the way the wind whistles through the crevices, a sound that is half song, half warning. Scattered around the base of these crags are the stones. They do not look like the giant sarsens of the east. They are smaller, more slender, more human in scale. When they are dry, sitting in the rare patches of sunlight, They appear simply grey, unremarkable and dull. But watch what happens when the rain comes, as it always does in these hills. As the water darkens the rock, a transformation occurs. The grey skin peels away to reveal a deep, rich blue, the colour of a stormy twilight or a bruised plum. And trapped within this blue matrix are tiny spots of white feldspar, scattered like stars in a night sky. These are the bluestones. They are spotted dolerite, a rock born of volcanic fire, cooled rapidly in the violent youth of the earth. They are beautiful, yes, but beauty alone is not enough to justify the madness that is about to happen. Imagine the sheer, impossible ambition of the task. The builders did not choose the stones closest to their great temple. They chose these stones. They chose stones that live 240 kilometers away. Picture the journey. It is a saga of muscle and water that spans generations. It begins with the extraction. There are no metal chisels here, only stone hammers and wedges of antler. The men work in the driving rain, their hands numb, their feet slipping in the mud. They pry the pillars of blue rock from the living earth, treating each one with a terrified reverence. These are not just rocks. To these people, they are the ancestors. They are the petrified spirits of a distant lineage, and they must be brought home. Once the stones are freed, they are dragged down the slopes on wooden sledges, sliding over rollers of birch and alder. The friction smells of burning wood and crushed grass, but the land journey is only the beginning. The true test, the true terror, lies on the water. Stand now on the banks of a river, perhaps the wide, silty mouth of the Severn or the winding currents of the Avon. The air is thick with the smell of river mud, a pungent, earthy odour of decay and life mixed together. Floating in the shallows are the rafts. They are massive platforms of lashed timber, oak trunks bound together with ropes woven from vegetable fibres and animal hide. They sit low in the water, heavy and sluggish. The loading of the stones is a moment of supreme danger. The raft dips and groans as the weight of the bluestone is levered onto it. The water surges up between the logs, cold and dark. The ropes creak, a sound like a violin string being tightened until it snaps. If the stone slips, it will be lost forever in the silt of the riverbed. The men hold their breath. The birds stop singing. Finally, the stone settles. The raft stabilizes. A collective sigh releases into the damp air. Then begins the long, slow drift. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of this journey. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic soundscape. Splash, creak, splash. The poles dip into the water, pushing against the bottom, propelling the heavy craft forward inch by agonizing inch. You hear the water slapping against the rough ends of the logs, a relentless liquid drumming. You hear the breathing of the rowers, a synchronized huff of exertion that keeps time with the current. The river is a living road. It winds through dense forests where the trees hang low over the water, their branches trailing in the stream like fingers. The light here is dappled and green. Sometimes the raft gets caught in a snag or runs aground on a hidden sandbar. Then there is shouting, the splashing of men jumping into the waist-deep water, the desperate heaving against the weight of the stone. They are fighting the river for every mile. At night they tie up to the bank. The fires are lit. The smoke drifts across the water, keeping the insects at bay. The men sleep curled against the stone, sharing their body heat with the cold blue rock. They can feel the vibration of the river through the timber, a constant trembling that travels up into the stone itself. They are bonding with it. The sweat of their labour is soaking into its pores. The stone is drinking their effort. By the time it arrives at the plain, it will not just be a piece of geology, it will be a vessel of human struggle. Why? Why go to such lengths? Why travel 240 kilometres on treacherous waters for a stone no taller than a man? The answer lies not in how the stone looks, but in how it speaks. We are back on land now. The journey is over. The stone lies on the grass of the Salisbury Plain, far from its rainy home. A wise woman approaches it. She holds a small hammerstone in her hand, much like the elder on the Marlborough Downs. But she is not checking for cracks. She is preparing to release a voice. She strikes the bluestone. Clang. It is not the dull thud of sandstone. It is not the dry clack of limestone. It is a metallic, ringing note. It sounds like bronze. It sounds like a bell. It sounds like a voice calling from the bottom of a well. These are ringing rocks, or lithophones. The dense, complex structure of the dolerite allows it to vibrate in a way that other stones cannot. In a world without metal, a world where the loudest sounds are thunder and the roar of a bull, this sound is magic. It is supernatural. Strike it again. Ding. The note hangs in the air, shimmering. It is a clear, piercing sound that seems to bypass the ears and resonate directly in the chest. It vibrates in the teeth. Put your hand on the stone after it has been struck. You can feel it humming, alive with energy. It feels as though there is something trapped inside, something trying to get out. To the Neolithic mind, this was not acoustics. This was presence. This was the voice of the healing gods. The stone was not just a building block, it was an instrument. When the circle was finally complete, when the blue stones were set, in their horseshoe arrangement, they were not just standing there. They were waiting to be played. Imagine a ritual in the centre of the circle. The firelight flickers against the blue pillars. The drummers are beating a rhythm on hides stretched over wooden frames, and then the stones are struck. A cacophony of metallic ringing fills the sacred space. The sound bounces off the larger sarsen stones, which act as a sound barrier, keeping the noise trapped inside, amplifying it until it becomes overwhelming. It is a trance-inducing wall of sound. It would feel as though the spirits of the ancestors were speaking all at once. The sound of the blue stones is the sound of the other world breaking through. It is a healing sound. It shakes the sickness out of the body. It vibrates the fear out of the mind. This is why they travelled. This is why they braved the sea and the river. They were not just building a calendar or a temple. They were building a cathedral of sound. They were dragging these heavy blue travellers across the world so that they could hear the voice of the earth singing back to them. Stand there in the imagination of the moment. The long journey is done. The water has dried from the stone skin. The moss of the Welsh hills has withered. But the song remains. The blue stone stands upright in the chalk, a foreigner in a strange land, holding its secret song inside, waiting for the strike of the hammer to tell its story of rain and rivers and the long, slow drift from the edge of the world. We have chosen the stone. We have heard its voice ringing in the cold air of the Welsh mountains or the quiet hills of Marlborough. But now the dreaming is over. Now the great physical reality of the task begins. We must move a mountain, piece by piece, across a landscape that fights us with every hillock, every mud patch, and every tangle of roots. This is not a task for the weak. It is a task for the patient. It requires a technology that is born of the forest and the animal, a technology of friction and grease. Come down close to the ground with me. Ignore the horizon for a moment and look at the earth. Here, in the staging area, the grass has been churned into a dark, sticky paste. Lying in this mud are the sledges. They are simple, brutal things. Massive trunks of oak, split and smoothed, lashed together to form a cradle for the stone. Beneath them lies the trackway, not of stone or gravel, but of wood. It is a ladder of logs, hundreds of them, stripped of their bark and laid side by side like the ribs of a fallen giant. The air here is thick with a very specific, overpowering scent. It is not the smell of flowers or rain. It is the heavy, cloying aroma of rendered fat. Tubs of it sit waiting. It is the tallow of cattle, the lard of pigs, boiled down until it is a slick yellowish paste. It smells of the hearth and the slaughter, a primal organic smell that coats the back of your throat. Watch the hands of the preparers. They dip into the cool, congealed fat. They smear it generously onto the wooden rollers. It glistens in the light. This is the secret of the movement. Without this layer of slip, wood would bite into wood, friction would build, and the heat would burn the timber. The grease is the mercy. It allows the heavy sledge to float just for a moment above the rough bark of the rollers. It creates a smooth, slick interface where the impossible weight becomes manageable. When the sun hits this greased wood, the smell intensifies, rising up in waves, a scent of industry and effort that defines the entire route. Now, look up. Look at the crowd that has gathered. It is a mistake to think of these people as slaves. Erase the image of the whip and the chain from your mind. There are no overseers barking cruel orders here. There is no misery in their eyes. Instead, look at their faces. There is determination, yes, but also a kind of festive intensity. This is a gathering of the clans. People have come from the far valleys, from the coast, from the deep woods. They are here because they want to be here. To pull the stone is to touch the holy. To lend your muscle to the movement is to weave your own life force into the monument that will stand forever. They take their places along the ropes. And what ropes they are! They are thick as a man's arm, twisted from the fibres of lime bark or the toughened hide of oxen. They are rough to the touch. Run your hand along a length of it. You can feel the stray fibres that prickle your skin, the incredible tension coiled within the twist. The ropes stretch out for hundreds of yards ahead of the stone, looking like the tentacles of a great sea creature. Hundreds of hands reach out. They are hands stained with soil and grease, calloused and hard. They wrap around the rough fibres. There is a moment of shuffling, of finding a foothold in the soft earth. The line tightens. The slack is taken up. The rope groans, a dry, creaking sound that travels down the line. And then the sound begins. It is not a shout. It is a rhythm. It starts with a single voice, perhaps a drummer beating a hollow log, or a leader with a deep, resonant chest. Heave, silence. Heave, silence. It is a low, guttural chant that serves as a metronome for the body. You cannot pull a stone like this with chaotic effort. If one man pulls while another rests, the stone will not move. It will simply settle deeper into the mud. They must become a single organism. They must breathe as one. Listen to the synchronization of their breath. 500 people inhaling at the exact same second. The sound is like a sudden gust of wind. Then the exertion, the grunt of effort as 500 spines straighten, as 1,000 legs drive into the ground. The sledge gives a shudder. The wood complains, a high-pitched shriek of timber under pressure. The grease does its work. The stone lurches forward. Slide. It moves perhaps only a few feet. Then it stops. The rollers behind the sledge are freed, and runners dash in to grab them, hauling them to the front to lay them down again. The process repeats. The rhythm takes over. It becomes a trance. The pain in the shoulders, the burning in the calves, it all fades into the background of the song. Heave, step, heave, step. The sound of the chant echoes off the trees, scaring the birds from their roosts. It is the heartbeat of the construction. It is a song of unity, binding these strangers together into a fellowship of the stone. As the sun begins to dip below the tree line, the work slows. The distance covered today might be a mile, perhaps less, but the stone is closer. The shadows lengthen, stretching out across the path they have made, a scar of mud and trampled grass cutting through the pristine wilderness. The camp is struck for the night. This is the third part of the rhythm, the rest. Imagine the scene as the twilight deepens into true night. The air grows cold, the temperature dropping rapidly as the moisture rises from the ground. Fires are lit, dozens of them, dotting the landscape like fallen stars. The smell of the grease is replaced by the smell of wood smoke, familiar and comforting. Walk through the camp. The atmosphere is one of exhausted contentment. The labour is done. The muscles are cooling down. Men and women sit on logs or furs, leaning against each other, sharing the warmth. There is the sound of laughter, low and sure. There is the sound of food cooking, perhaps a deer roasted over the spit, or flatbreads baking on hot stones. The simple, savoury smells make your mouth water after the long day. Dominating the camp, even in the darkness, is the stone. It sits there on its sledge, a silent guest. It absorbs the heat of the nearby fires, glowing faintly with reflected orange light. It is the centre of everything. Children run up to touch it, daring each other to place a hand on the sleeping giant. The elders sit near it, as if guarding it, or perhaps communing with it. It is in these moments, under the vast canopy of the Milky Way, that the stories are told. This is how the memory of the task is preserved. A storyteller stands by the largest fire, his face illuminated by the dancing flames. He speaks not of engineering, but of magic. He tells of how Merlin the enchanter floated the stones across the sea. He tells of giants who danced in a circle until they turned to rock. The listeners nod, their eyes heavy but wide. They know the truth of the sore muscles and the grease, but they also know the truth of the magic. They feel it. They feel that they are part of a grand mission, something that gives their short, hard lives a meaning that will outlast them. They are not just moving a rock, they are moving the centre of the world. The crackle of the fire is a lullaby. The sparks drift up into the black sky, mixing with the stars. One by one the voices quiet down. The camp settles into sleep. The breathing of the sleepers replaces the chant of the pullers. But even in sleep the rhythm remains. It is in their dreams, the feeling of the rope in their hands, the rocking of the sledge, the forward momentum. They are a river of people, flowing towards the plain, carrying their burden with a love that we, with our cranes and our engines, can barely understand. The stone waits, the dawn will come, and the rhythm will begin again. We leave the solitude of the open plain behind us now. We leave the rhythm of the ropes and the silence of the heavy stones. Walk with me toward the river, into the dip of the valley where the smoke rises in great grey columns to meet the winter sky. Here the world changes. We are entering the domain of wood and flesh, not stone and spirit. We are arriving at Durrington Walls, the great city of the living. It appears first as a glow on the horizon, a warm, pulsing orange light that stains the belly of the low clouds. As you draw closer, the smell hits you. It is a dense, welcoming wall of scent. It smells of unwashed wool, of green wood burning in 1,000 hearths, of roasting pork, and the sweet, milky breath of cattle. It is the smell of humanity gathered in one place, a scent that triggers a deep ancestral memory of safety. Walk through the outer banks, the great earthworks that cradle the settlement. Before you lies a sprawling lattice of life. Hundreds of small houses are clustered together, arranged in neat, deliberate avenues that mirror the stone avenues of the dead further down the river. But these are not cold monuments. These are homes. Look closely at one of the huts. It is a masterpiece of comfort. The walls are low and square, woven from hazel rods as flexible as wicker, then plastered thick with a mixture of chalk and straw. This daub has dried to a brilliant bone white. In the moonlight, the entire village seems to glow, a ghostly reflection of the chalk earth it sits upon. Above, the roof is a thick golden cap of thatched straw, layered so deep that the rain simply slides off, unable to find a way in. Push aside the heavy animal hide that serves as a door. Step inside. The change in atmosphere is instant. The wind dies. The biting cold is severed. You are wrapped immediately in a pocket of heat. The centre of the room is dominated by a square hearth, where a fire of ash logs burns with a steady, low flame. The light is soft and flickering, painting the white walls with dancing shadows, making the space feel intimate and enclosed. Under your feet, the floor is a revelation. It is not the muddy, uneven ground of the outside world. It is made of crushed chalk mixed with water and stamped down until it is as hard as concrete. It has been polished by the passage of bare feet and the sweep of brooms until it gleams. It feels smooth and cool, but it reflects the heat of the fire, holding the warmth of the room. There are low beds raised off the floor, piled high with furs, offering a softness that the weary builders have dreamed of for us. Weeks. This is a space designed for rest. It is a space designed to keep the chaos of the wild world at bay. But tonight is not just a night for sleeping, it is the deep of winter. The sun has reached its lowest point, and the shadows are at their longest. It is the time of the feast. Move back out into the avenues. The air is vibrating with sound. It is not the rhythmic chant of the stone pullers, but the chaotic, joyous hum of a community released from labour. There is laughter that starts deep in the belly. There is the clatter of pottery. There is the shouting of old friends greeting one another across the fires. The feast is monumental. In the centre of the settlement, vast pits have been dug into the earth. Inside them, fires have burned down to beds of glowing red coals, and on these coals lie the pigs, whole animals seasoned with herbs gathered from the forest edge, are roasting slowly. The fat renders and drips onto the embers, sending up hissing plumes of aromatic smoke that coat everything in a savoury glaze. The skin crackles and blisters, turning a deep mahogany brown. People are gathered in tight circles, passing around bowls of grooved ware pottery. These vessels are bucket-shaped and thick-walled, designed to hold generous portions. Inside, there is a cloudy fermented liquid. It is a brew made from grain and perhaps honey, sour and earthy. It warms the chest as it goes down, loosening the tongue and softening the ache in the muscles. Watch the faces in the firelight. These are the people who have dragged the sarcens and floated the blue stones. Their skin is weathered by the wind and sun. Their hands are scarred. But tonight the strain is gone. There is a grease on their chins from the pork. There is a brightness in their eyes. They are sharing stories of the journey, their voices weaving together into a tapestry of shared experience. They speak of the river's treachery and the stubbornness of the stone. But here, with a belly full of meat and a cup full of drink, those hardships seem like adventures. This is the reward. This is the fuel that powers the monument. Now let us experience the contrast. Let us step away from the fire, away from the laughter and the roast meat. Walk to the edge of the settlement, where the light of the fires fades into the darkness of the surrounding landscape. Open the door of a hut one last time, but do not go in. Just stand on the threshold. Behind you is the interior. It is a womb of light. The air is still and smells of dry straw and milk. It feels golden. It feels like life. In front of you is the night. The air here is sharp enough to cut. It rushes at you, carrying the profound chill of the Salisbury Plain. It smells of frost and frozen mud. The silence out here is vast and indifferent. The stars look down with cold, unblinking eyes. The difference between the two worlds is separated by only a few inches of woven hazel and chalk. It is a fragile boundary. Inside, there is the illusion that man has conquered the elements. Outside, the elements are waiting, patient and eternal. You can feel the heat seeping out of the doorway, curling like steam into the night air. You can feel the cold trying to push its way in. It creates a physical sensation of gratitude. Standing there, on the line between the freezing dark and the golden hearth, you understand why they built this place. You understand why they needed walls. It is not just to keep the weather out. It is to hold the spirit in. Shiver once as the wind touches your neck, then step back inside. Let the hide curtain fall back into place, sealing the gap. The cold is banished. The silence is replaced by the crackle of the logs. You are safe. You are warm. You are among the living. And for tonight, that is all that matters. The stone circle down the river, the cold, empty temple of the ancestors, can wait until morning. Tonight belongs to the fire. We have moved the mountain. We have dragged it through the mud and floated it over the water. But the stone is not yet ready. It is still wild. It still wears the rough, wrinkled skin of the Marlborough Downs. To become a temple, it must first be tamed. We are entering now into the circle of the masons, the workshop of giants. Here, the air is not filled with the smell of roast meat or the damp of the river. It is filled with a sharp, dry tang. It smells of struck flint and crushed quartz. It smells of friction. Walk among the stones as they lie prone on the ground. They look like fallen idols waiting to be resurrected, but they are not sleeping. They are being assaulted. Listen to the sound of this place. It is a terrifying, monotonous rhythm. There is no metal here, no ringing of bronze or iron. There is only the sound of stone hitting stone. Crack, crack, crack. It is a dry, percussive noise, repeated 1,000 times an hour, 100,000 times a day. It is the sound of time being chipped away. Watch the mason at work. He holds a maul in his hands. It is a sphere of sarsen, a round boulder the size of a human head, heavy and dense. He lifts it above his shoulder, his muscles bunching under the strain, and brings it down. Gravity does the work. The maul collides with the surface of the great stone. A shower of white sparks flies up, smelling of gunpowder. A tiny flake of rock detaches and falls to the ground. He lifts it again. He drops it again. This is not a task for the impatient. To shape a sarsen stone with a maul is to erode it, almost as the wind and rain would, but accelerated by human will. It requires a trance-like state. If the mason thinks about the enormity of the task, he will despair. He must focus only on the next strike, the next flake. He must become a machine of flesh and bone. You can feel the vibration of each impact travelling up his arms, rattling his teeth, settling deep in his joints. It is a brutal intimacy. He is transferring his own energy, his own life force into the rock, trading his strength for its shape. As we move closer to the centre of the work, the engineering becomes more delicate. We see something profound happening here. These people are woodworkers at heart. They have spent thousands of years building with timber, joining logs with intricate cuts to make them stand against the wind. Now, they are applying that same logic to stone. They are dreaming of wood, but working in granite. Look at the top of one of the upright stones. The men are not just flattening it, they are carving a shape. They are isolating a central knob of rock, chipping away the material around it until a protrusion remains. It looks like a stump, rough and grey. This is the tenon. It is the tongue that will speak to the stone above. Now look at the lintel, the massive horizontal block that will lie across the top. On its underside, they are hollowing out a matching cup. This is the mortise. It is a slow, grinding process. They use smaller mauls here, the size of apples, tapping, gently, terrified of cracking the stone. They check the fit, measure with lengths of hazel rod, and tap again. This is a carpentry of ghosts. They are creating a joint that will lock these stones together, not with mortar or cement, but with gravity and friction. They are ensuring that when the earth shakes, when the storms rage, the stones will hold hands. They will not slip. It is a triumph of the mind over the material. They are forcing the stubborn, unyielding rock to behave like the pliable trunk of an oak tree. The atmosphere in this workshop is thick, quite literally. A fine white mist hangs over everything. It is not fog, it is silica dust. It rises in plumes with every strike of the maul, glittering in the sunlight like diamond powder. It coats the eyelashes of the workers, turning them white. It settles in the creases of their skin, drying out the oils, making their hands look as ancient as the stones they touch. Taste the air. It is gritty and chalky. It coats your tongue with a mineral dryness. When the men swallow, they are swallowing the dust of the monument. It becomes a part of them, just as they are becoming a part of it. Finally, come to the finishing area. Here, the violence of the heavy mauls is replaced by a hypnotic grinding. The rough elephant skin of the sarsen is being erased. The masons are scrubbing the surface with smaller stones, using sand and water as an abrasive. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It is a softer sound, a continuous rasping whisper, back and forth, back and forth. They are polishing the stone until it is smooth to the touch. Run your hand over a finished section. It feels cold and sleek, like polished bone. The chaotic, wrinkled geology of the natural rock has been disciplined into a perfect curve. It feels intentional. The light plays differently on these smooth stones. It does not get lost in the shadows of the pits and bumps. It slides across the surface, making the stone look fluid, almost liquid in the right light. This is the final dress of the temple. It is an act of devotion. They are not just making it strong, they are making it beautiful. They are preparing the stone for the touch of the sun. As the sun sets over the workshop, the dust settles slowly, covering the ground in a layer of pale snow. The silence returns, but it is a different silence now. It is the silence of anticipation. The pieces of the puzzle are ready. The tenons are cut, the mortises are hollowed, the faces are smoothed. The giants are lying on the grass, transformed from rough boulders into architectural members. They are ready to rise. And as the workers wash the white dust from their faces in the river, they look back at their work and see not just rocks, but a machine that is waiting to be assembled, a machine that will capture the sky. We stand now at the precipice of the final act. The journey across the water is a memory. The shaping of the stones in the dusty workshop is finished. Now, physics must meet faith. We are about to ask the earth to accept a burden it was never meant to hold. We are about to ask gravity to look the other way, just for a moment. Look down at the ground. The green turf of the plain has been peeled back, rolled away like a heavy carpet to reveal the secret skin of the world beneath. It is a blinding, shocking white. The chalk here is not the grey, weathered stone of the cliffs. It is fresh, damp and brilliant. It hurts the eyes to look at it in the full sun. It looks like a spill of milk or a patch of summer snow that refuses to melt. The builders have dug deep wounds into this whiteness. These are the sockets. They are not mere holes. They are carefully engineered graves for the uprights. Stand at the edge of one and look down. It goes down deeper than a man is tall. The sides are sheer and smooth, bearing the scrape marks of the antler picks that carved them. The air rising from the bottom is cool and clammy, smelling of wet lime and crushed seashells from a time before time. On one side of the pit, the wall is vertical, lined with thick wooden stakes to protect the chalk from being crushed. On the other side, a ramp has been cut, a gentle slope of white earth sliding down into the darkness. This is the slide. This is the throat that will swallow the stone. The great sarsen stone lies flat on the ground, its base positioned at the top of this ramp. It looks like a sleeping giant, peaceful and heavy. But the peace is an illusion. The air around it is humming with potential energy. Ropes are lashed around its upper half, thick cables of twisted hide that look like the veins of a titan. They stretch out across the plain, disappearing into the hands of the waiting crowd. But ropes alone cannot lift this weight. We need the help of the trees. Behind the stone, a massive A-frame of timber has been erected, a simple, brutal lever pointing at the sky. The ropes pass over the top of this frame, gaining the mechanical advantage that will turn human muscle into divine power. The signal is given. It is not a shout, but a rhythmic beating of a drum, a deep, hollow thud that resonates in the stomach. Boom! The ropes tighten. You can hear them singing. It is a high, terrifying note, the sound of leather fibers stretching to their absolute limit. They creak and groan, a sound like an old ship in a storm. Boom! The crowd leans back. Hundreds of bodies become one counterweight. The heels of their boots dig into the white chalk, churning it into a paste. There is a smell of sweat, sharp and metallic, mixing with the damp earth. Watch the stone. For a long moment, nothing happens. It seems to resist. It seems to cling to the earth, unwilling to wake from its geological slumber. Then, with a sound like a heavy door closing, it shifts. The top of the stone lifts an inch. Then two. The bottom of the stone begins to slide forward, tipping over the edge of the ramp. Gravity takes over. The stone dives. It is a slow, terrifying slide. The great grey bulk tilts downward, sliding into the pit. As it hits the bottom, the ground jumps. You feel it through the soles of your feet, a dull, heavy impact that rattles the bones in your ankles. It is a seismic event. The earth shudders as if it has been struck. Dust rises in a white cloud, momentarily swallowing the scene, tasting of dry powder and age. But the stone is not vertical yet. It is leaning, propped up by the ramp, looking like a drunkard trying to stand. Now comes the true test of the lever. The A-frame is pulled down, and as it descends, the stone rises. It is a magical transformation. The grey shape, which has always been a horizontal feature of the landscape, begins to climb the sky. It casts a shadow that grows longer and longer, stretching out across the grass like a sundial. The higher it gets, the heavier it looks. It blots out the sun. It becomes a silhouette, a dark finger pointing accusingly at the heavens. With a final, agonizing groan of the ropes and a shout from the builders, the stone slides into the vertical. It hits the back wall of the pit with a solid, definitive thunk. It stands. For the first time in millions of years, the sarsen is upright. It is no longer a rock. It is a pillar. It towers over the men who moved it, making them look like ants. It commands the space. The crowd releases a breath they didn't know they were holding, but there is no time for celebration. The packing must begin. Men swarm around the base, dumping baskets of rubble, broken stones and chalk into the gap around the pillar, ramming it tight, locking the giant into its new home. The uprights are in place. A ring of grey sentinels now guards the plain. But the dream is not finished. The most dangerous, the most audacious act remains. We must place the lintels. We must take a stone that weighs as much as a herd of cattle and lift it 20 feet into the air and place it gently on top of two vertical pillars. There are no cranes here. There are no hydraulics. There is only wood, patience, and fear. Picture the scene. The two uprights stand side by side, their tops waiting. The lintel stone lies on the ground between them. The method is a masterpiece of slow, terrifying engineering. It is called cribbing. The builders place a layer of heavy timber logs under the stone. They lift one end with levers, slide a beam underneath. Then they lift the other end, slide a beam underneath. The stone rises 6 inches. They repeat the process. Lift, slide, lift, slide. Slowly, agonizingly, a wooden tower begins to grow under the stone. It is a solid block of timber, a crisscross stack of logs that lifts the lintel inch by inch. As the tower grows, the instability grows. The higher they go, the more the wind becomes a factor. Stand on the wooden platform, 20 feet in the air. The view is dizzying. The ground seems miles away. The wind here is stronger, tugging at your tunic, whistling through the gaps in the logs. The lintel stone sits on top of the swaying timber stack, heavy and dark. The smell here is different. It smells of fresh sap from the cut timber, a sharp, piney scent that cuts through the dust. It smells of fear. The men working up here move with the slow, deliberate grace of cats. One wrong step, one slipped lever, and the stone falls. If it falls, it will shatter the timber tower. It will crush the men below. It will break the uprights. It will destroy years of work in a single second. The lintel is now level with the tops of the uprights. This is the moment, the tipping point. The silence on the plain is absolute. No birds sing. The wind seems to hold its breath. 1,000 people stand below, their eyes fixed on the drama playing out against the sky. You can hear the blood rushing in your ears. The workers up on the tower insert their longest levers. They need to slide the stone sideways. They need to push it off the safety of the wood and onto the stone caps of the uprights. They heave. The stone grates against the timber. It moves. Scrape. It hangs over the gap. The dark belly of the lintel passes over the empty air between the uprights. Scrape. It is almost there. The masons below are watching the mortise and tenon, the cup and the knob. They must align perfectly, blindly. With one final synchronized push, the stone slides home. Click. It is not a loud sound. It is a deep, resonant vibrations that travels down the upright stones and into the earth. The mortise swallows the tenon, the joint locks, the lintel settles. The silence holds for 1 second more, as if the world is waiting to see if the structure will collapse. It does not. The 3 stones, 2 uprights and 1 lintel, stand together. They have become a trilithon, a doorway, a frame for the sun. The shadow they cast is deep and cool. The tension evaporates, replaced by a wave of awe that ripples through the crowd. They have done the impossible. They have suspended the earth in the sky. The builders on the tower wipe the sweat from their eyes, their hands trembling with the release of adrenaline. They look out through the new doorway they have created. They frame the horizon. They see the same hills, the same grass, the same sun, but it looks different now. It is framed by intent. It is viewed through the lens of eternity. Down on the ground, the white chalk dust settles on the dark stone, dusting it like sugar. The air feels changed. It feels charged. The chaotic energy of the construction site has been replaced by the heavy, static gravity of architecture. The raising is done. The stones have stopped moving. Now they begin their long, silent watch over the plain, a watch that will last until the stars burn out. The final stone has settled. The last great lintel, weighing as much as a herd of deep-breathing cattle, has been slid into its mortise and tenon joint with that final, earth-deep thud. The dust of construction, the white chalk powder that has hung in the air for years like a burn. Phantom fog finally begins to drift down to the grass. The shouts of the builders, the rhythmic chanting of the haulers, the sharp crack of the mauls, all of it fades away. The work is done. The tool is finished. Now we must step inside Cross the threshold, walk between the towering grey pillars and enter the central sanctuary. As you cross that invisible line, the world changes instantly. You are no longer on the open, windswept Salisbury Plain. You're inside a room. It is a room with no roof but the shifting sky, yet it feels more enclosed, more solid than the deepest cave. The first thing you notice is not what you see, but what you hear, or rather, what you do not hear. Outside, on the open grassland, the wind is a tyrant. It is a constant rushing noise that fills your ears, a white noise of moving air that never ceases. It buffets your body, stealing your heat and scattering your words. But here, inside the circle, the wind is broken. The wall of sarsen stones, fitted so tightly together, acts as a shield. The gale hits the outer face of the rocks and is thrown upwards, passing over your head. The result is a sudden, shocking silence. It is a vacuum of sound. The roar of the plain is reduced to a distant, high murmur, like the sound of the ocean heard from far inland. The sudden drop in volume is physical. It makes your ears pop. It makes you want to swallow to clear the pressure. You find yourself holding your breath, afraid to disturb the stillness. But it is not a dead silence. It is a waiting silence. The acoustics of this stone chamber are unlike anything else on earth. The hard, curved inner surfaces of the sarsens, polished to that smooth, bone-like finish, act as mirrors for sound. Speak a word, just a whisper, return. The sound leaves your lips and hits the stone. It does not vanish into the distance as it would on the plain. It bounces back. It returns to you, amplified and enriched. The stone circle holds your voice. It cups it in its grey hands and offers it back to you. If you were to clap your hands in the exact centre of the circle, the sound would be sharp and metallic. Snap. It would rattle between the pillars, creating a flutter echo, a rapid-fire repetition that sounds like the wings of a trapped bird. It is a space designed for chanting. A low, rhythmic hum produced here would build upon itself, growing in intensity, vibrating against the stone until the air itself seemed to thicken. The architecture turns the human voice into something more than human. It turns a murmur into a command. It turns a song into a spell. Move closer to the stones now. Lean your back against one of the great uprights. Feel the massive, solid presence of it supporting your spine. This is the sensation of the barrier, the stone screen. From this vantage point, looking out through the narrow gaps between the pillars, the outside world is fragmented. You do not see the whole horizon. You see vertical slices of green and blue. The vast, overwhelming scale of the landscape is tamed. It is framed. The chaos of nature is kept at bay by this ring of order. There is a profound sense of safety here. The psychological effect is immediate and deep. Outside, you are small, exposed, a prey animal on a wide plain. Inside, you are held. You are protected. The stones are like the shoulders of giants standing in a defensive ring around you, facing outward, keeping the darkness away. The temperature is different here too. The wind cannot reach you to strip away your warmth. The air is still and calm. In the summer, the stones absorb the heat of the sun all day long, and now, standing in the centre, you can feel them radiating that warmth back at you. It is a gentle, invisible pressure, like standing near a dying fire. The circle creates its own microclimate, a pocket of stillness where a candle flame would stand perfectly straight, unmoving, while 10 yards away the grass is being flattened by a gale. This isolation creates a feeling of separation from time. The busy, noisy world of the village, the hunting grounds, the river, it all feels very far away. Here, there is only the stone and the sky. You feel severed from the mundane, lifted out of the ordinary flow of life and placed in a vessel that floats on a different tide. As the day passes, the architecture of silence becomes an architecture of shadow. It is midday now. The sun is high in the south. The light pours into the circle, striking the tops of the lintels. Because the stones are so tall and the circle is so tight, the light does not hit the ground evenly. It is sliced and shaped by the rock. Watch the floor of the temple. The shadows of the uprights lie across the chalk like the black keys of a piano. They are hard, sharp-edged shadows, dark pools of cool air in the brightness. As the sun moves, the shadows move. They are the hands of a giant clock. Slowly, imperceptibly, the darkness creeps across the white earth. A shadow stretches out, touching the base of the altar stone, then sliding over it. It is a slow, relentless movement. To watch it is to watch the rotation of the earth itself. The stones are not just walls, they are markers. They are measuring out the heartbeat of the universe. The play of light reveals the texture of the stones in a new way. When the sun grazes the surface at a sharp angle, the elephant skin of the sarsen leaps into relief. Every pockmark, every ripple of silica, every patch of lichen casts its own tiny shadow. The stones look rugged and ancient, their surfaces mapping a history of geological violence. Then, as the sun moves and the light hits them directly, they flatten out. They become smooth, grey monoliths, blank and imposing. The building is constantly changing its face. It is alive with the shifting light. In the late afternoon, the sun begins to dip towards the horizon. The shadows lengthen, stretching out until they cross the entire width of the circle, locking the stones together in a web of darkness. The spaces between the stones, the windows of light, begin to glow. The sun flares through these gaps, turning them into blinding vertical slits of gold. For a moment, the stone circle feels like a cage of light and dark. The contrast is violent, the black of the stone against the burning brilliance of the setting sun. The air in the centre cools rapidly as the shadows claim the space. The warmth radiates from the rock, fighting the coming chill. And then the sun is gone. The light fades to a bruised purple. The shadows dissolve into a uniform grey dusk. The silence deepens. Now the circle feels different again. It feels heavy. The stones loom in the twilight, losing their detail, becoming silhouettes against the first stars. The acoustic seal seems to tighten. The silence becomes a physical weight pressing against your eardrums. Standing here alone in the gathering dark, you understand that this was never meant to be a house for people. It is too grand, too cold, too precise. It is a machine for catching the silence. It is a trap for the light. It is a place where the human being is small, but where the human voice can ring out and last forever, bouncing between the walls of a room built to withstand eternity. The architecture of silence is complete. The stage is set. The stones are waiting for the first dawn, for the first ray of the solstice sun to pierce the darkness and ignite the axis of the world. But for now, in this quiet evening, There is only the stillness, the stone, and the sound of your own heart beating in the centre of the void. The wheel of the year has turned to its darkest point. We have reached the bottom of the well. The long golden days of the harvest are a distant memory, fading like a dream upon waking. Now the world is locked in iron. The grass on the plain is brittle and white with hoarfrost, crunching underfoot like spun sugar. The puddles in the ruts of the avenue are frozen solid, trapping dead, leaves in ice as clear as glass. The air is so cold it feels sharp in the lungs, a physical presence that bites at the back of the throat with every inhale. It is the shortest day. It is the day of the great fear. For months the people have watched the sun grow weaker. They have watched it rise lower and lower in the sky, its arc shortening, its warmth failing. To the ancient mind, there is no guarantee that this retreat will stop. There is a terrifying possibility that the sun will simply keep sinking, sinking until it falls behind the horizon and never returns, leaving the world to freeze in an eternal, hungry night. And so they gather. They have come to the great stone circle, not to celebrate, but to witness, to pray, to help the sun turn the corner. Stand with them now in the centre of the sanctuary. The crowd is packed tight, a sea of furs and wool. The smell of the gathering is intense and primal. It is the scent of damp sheepskin, of wood smoke clinging to hair, of unwashed bodies huddled together for warmth. But cutting through it all is the sharp metallic tang of cold stone and anxiety. There is no shouting today. There is no feasting yet. The mood is one of heavy, suffocating anticipation. Thousands of eyes are fixed on the southwest. They are looking toward the great trilithon, the tallest of all the giants, the massive archway that frames a specific slice of the sky. The sun is beginning its final descent. It is a pale, watery disk, shivering behind thin veils of cloud. As it drops, the light changes. The harsh, flat grey of the winter afternoon begins to bruise. The sky turns a deep, swollen purple, streaked with veins of blood red and burnt orange. The shadows in the circle lengthen, stretching out like dark fingers trying to grab the ankles of the watchers. The silence is absolute. Even the children are quiet, sensing the gravity of the moment. The only sound is the wind hissing over the top of the stones, a lonely, hollow sound, and the collective breathing of the tribe. In, out, in, out. White plumes of mist rise from thousands of mouths, drifting up to mix with the darkening sky. The sun drops lower. It touches the rim of the earth. This is the moment the architects planned for. This is the moment for which the Sarsens were dragged from the downs and the bluestones were floated from the west. The entire monument is a machine, a vast stone clock, and it is about to strike the hour. As the sun sinks, its light no longer spills everywhere. It is constrained. It is disciplined by the stones. The light is forced into a channel. It shoots between the uprights of the outer circle, passing through the gap like water through a sluice gate. Watch the ground. A beam of light appears on the chalk floor. It is not diffuse or scattered. It is sharp, defined, and intense. It is a spear of gold thrown across the white earth. The crowd parts. They pull back to the edges of the stones, leaving the central axis clear. They know the path. They know where the god will walk. The beam of light lengthens. It creeps forward, inch by inch, crawling over the frost. It is a living thing. It glows with a fierce, concentrated brilliance, a distilled essence of fire that stands in stark contrast to the gathering gloom. It strikes the altar stone. The rough, grey surface of the micaceous sandstone suddenly ignites. It sparkles. The tiny crystals embedded in the rock catch the fire, glittering like crushed diamonds. The sun is now a half circle on the horizon, glowing like a dying ember. The light in the temple changes from gold to a deep, rich red. It is the colour of the heart's blood. The beam narrows. It becomes a line. This is the alignment. This is the marriage of earth and sky. The great trilithon stands ready. The sun slips exactly into the gap between its soaring uprights. It does not graze the sides. It does not disappear behind the stone. It sits perfectly in the centre, cradled by the rock. The stone frame captures the sun. For a heartbeat, the motion of the universe seems to stop. The sun is pinned to the earth. The light shoots straight through the monument. It connects the very back of the temple to the entrance, a single, unbroken cord of luminosity. It reveals the dust motes dancing in the air, thousands of tiny golden specks swirling in the beam, looking like spirits manifesting in the light. The sensation in the circle is overwhelming. You can feel the connection in your bones. The chaotic, frightening world of nature has been brought into order. The wandering sun has been caught in the net of stone. It is a moment of supreme control, of supreme understanding. The chaos is tamed. And then the bottom edge of the sun touches the horizon. The light flares one last time, a blinding flash that bathes the faces of the watchers in glory. Their eyes shine with the reflection of the solstice. Their skin looks bronze and ageless. Slowly, the sun slides down. The golden line on the floor begins to thaw. Retreat. The fire on the altar stone fades. The purple sky deepens into black. The sun is gone, but the fear is gone with it. A sound ripples through the crowd. It is not a cheer, not yet. It is a sigh, a massive collective exhalation of relief that seems to shake the very foundations of the stones. They have seen it. The sun did not miss the mark. It did not wander off into the darkness. It returned to its home. It honoured the pact. In the deepening twilight, a new feeling takes root. It is hope. It is a fragile, tender thing blooming in the bitter cold. The alignment is a promise. It is the earth telling the people that the corner has been turned. The sun has reached its furthest point, and now, tomorrow, it will begin the long journey back. The days will get longer. The heat will return. The grass will grow again. The lambs will be born. The cycle is unbroken. Torches are lit now. Sparks fly up into the night, mirroring the stars that are beginning to prick through the velvet. Darkness. The orange glow of firelight replaces the red glow of the sun. Faces turn to one another, smiling, weeping. Hands clasp shoulders. The tension that has held the community in a vice grip for weeks is suddenly released. The stone circle, which moments ago was a tense observatory, now becomes a womb of celebration. The alcohol is brought out. The drums begin to beat, picking up the rhythm of the returning life. But even as the noise rises, the memory of that silence remains, the memory of that golden line cutting through the dark. The stones stand black and solid against the night sky. They have done their job. They have anchored the sun. They have proven that there is order in the universe, that the seasons are not random, that there is a rhythm to existence that can be measured, predicted, and understood. Stand there for one last moment before joining the feast. Look at the altar stone, now dark and cold again. Remember the fire that touched it. You are standing on the pivot, point of the year. You have survived the dark. And as the first winter stars wheel overhead, you know, with a certainty that sits deep in your marrow, that the light will always return. The firelight has faded, the last ember, glowing like an angry red eye in the centre of the feasting pit, has finally surrendered to the cold. It blinks once, twice, and then turns to grey ash, carried away by a sudden gust of wind. The sound of the drums has stopped. The rhythmic chanting that seemed to vibrate the very marrow of the earth has drifted away, carried down the river valley toward the settlement of the living. The people are gone. They have retreated to their warm huts, to their furs, to the fleeting comfort of their dreams. The circle is empty. Stand here now, in the vacuum they have left behind. The silence does not rush back in all at once. It settles slowly, like snow falling on a windless night. It reclaims the space, filling the gaps between the stones, smoothing over the trampled, chalk, erasing the echoes of human joy. The smell of roast meat and sweat dissipates, replaced by the crisp, clean scent of the frosted grass and the mineral tang of the cooling stones. The stones are alone now. And in a way, this is their true state. They were built by men, yes, but they do not belong to men. They belong to the silence. They belong to the night. Look at them standing there against the vast, star-dusted canopy of the sky. The great saracens, huge and black, look like tears in the fabric of the universe. They are motionless. While the humans sleep, tossing and turning, worrying about tomorrow's hunt or next year's harvest, the stones simply are. They do not breathe, they do not shiver. They hold their position with a terrifying, absolute patience. The night deepens. The constellation of Orion hunts slowly across the southern sky, his belt mirroring the alignment of the monuments below. The frost thickens on the lintels, coating the grey rock in a layer of diamond dust that glitters in the starlight. A barn owl, white as a ghost, drifts silently over the altar stone, its wings making no sound, a fleeting spirit passing through the temple of permanence. Now, let us step back. Let us pull our perspective away from this single night. Let us drift upwards into the flow of time. Let us watch the centuries unravel like a spool of thread. Time begins to speed up. The night passes in a blink. The sun rises, a flash of gold, and sets, a flash of red. Day and night merge into a greying strobe, a pulsing rhythm of light and dark that washes over the plain. The people who built this place grow old. Their hair turns white, their backs bend, and they return to the earth. Their children take their place, and then their children's children. The language they spoke, the names of the gods they prayed to, the songs they sang while pulling the ropes, it all fades. It drifts away like mist in the morning sun. But the stones remain. Watch the landscape change around them. The great forests of oak and hazel that hug the valleys begin to recede. Men with bronze axes, then iron axes, clear the land. The wildwood becomes pasture. The pasture becomes farmland. The boundaries of the fields shift and change like the patterns of a kaleidoscope. Fences rise and fall. Roads are cut into the chalk. white scars that heal and reopen over the millennia. The thatched roofs of Durrington walls rot and collapse. The wood returns to the soil, feeding the nettles and the brambles. The city of the living vanishes, leaving not a trace above the grass. The wood is mortal. It remembers how to die. But the stones remain. Seasons flicker past. Winter covers the circle in deep drifts of snow, burying the fallen bluestones, crowning the trilithons in white. The frost bites at the rock, trying to find a weakness, trying to crack the sarsen skin. But the stone is stubborn. It holds. Then the snow melts, rushing away in rivulets of clear water. Spring erupts in a green explosion of life. Wildflowers, yellow rattle, poppy, scabious foam around the base of the pillars. Summer bakes the plain, the air shimmering with heat haze, the stones warm to the touch, storing the sun. Autumn brings the rain, lashing against the western faces, scrubbing them clean, turning them dark and slick. Rain, sun, ice, wind, rain, sun, ice, wind. The cycle repeats 1,000 times, 10,000 times. The surface of the stones begins to change, but slowly. Oh, so slowly. Colonies of lichen take root. They are the slow painters of history. Map lichens spread in circles of bright yellow and celadon green. They eat the dust of the stars and the moisture of the clouds, creating a living map on the grey canvas. Moss cushions the crevices where the water pools, soft and velvet green against the hard grit of the silica. Storms come, great tempests that uproot the ancient yew trees and tear the roofs from houses. Lightning strikes the plain, turning the night into day. The Faxen, stones are lashed by water, buffeted by gales that scream through the gaps in the circle. They do not sway, they do not flinch. They ground the lightning, they break the wind. They stand as the only constant in a world of chaotic motion. Civilizations rise and fall in the distance. We see the glint of Roman armour marching down the straight roads. We see the smoke of Saxon fires. We see the stone towers of medieval churches rising in the valleys, echoing the shape of the ancient temple. We see the first carriages, then the first cars, flashing by like beetles on the distant highway. The world gets louder. The air fills with the hum of engines and the invisible web of signals. But inside the circle, the silence is old. It is the same silence that was trapped there 5,000 years ago. It is a preserved pocket of the Neolithic, a bubble of stillness that the modern world cannot pop. The stones are the eternal watchers. They have seen it all, and they have kept their counsel. They do not judge. They do not intervene. They simply witness. They are the anchor that holds the landscape in place. Without them, you feel the plane might simply drift away into the sky. And now, I want you to feel that stability. Bring your attention back to yourself. Imagine that you are standing in the center of the circle, but you are no longer separate from it. You are part of the architecture. Feel your feet on the ground. Imagine the white chalk beneath you, solid, thick and cool. It goes down for miles, a foundation of ancient ocean floor that will never shift. You are rooted in this whiteness. You are held by the earth. Feel the weight of your body. It is a good weight. It is not a burden. It is a presence. Feel your legs becoming heavy, dense and strong, like the pillars of the sarsen. They are locked into the earth, immovable. Gravity is not pulling you down, it is hugging you close. It is connecting you to the core of the world. Feel your spine. It is straight and true, like the upright stone. It supports you effortlessly. You do not need to hold yourself up. The structure holds you. You can let go of the tension in your muscles. You can let go of the need to move, to act, to do. You are stone. You are grey, weathered and magnificent. The wind of the world blows around you. The worries of the day, the lists of tasks, the voices of others, they are just the wind. They rush past you, swirling around your surface, but they cannot get in. You are solid. They strike your skin and are deflected, sent spiraling up into the sky to dissipate. Inside, you are silent. It is the silence of the geode. It is a cool, dark, protective silence. It is a sanctuary where nothing can disturb you. Feel the stone screen around you. The great grey giants are standing guard. They are surrounding you, blocking out the noise, blocking out the light, blocking out the chaos. You are safe in the centre. Nothing can reach you here. The sun has set for the last time in our story. The stars are out. They are beautiful, distant points of light, watching over you just as they watch over the monument. The air is cool and still. Let your breathing slow down. Inhale slowly, drawing in the peace of the plain. Exhale slowly, releasing the dust of the day. Your breath is the only movement in the circle. It is a slow, rhythmic tide, like the seasons passing over the rock. In, out, winter, summer, night, day. You are tired now. It is a heavy, ancient tiredness. It is the desire to stop moving, to stop thinking, to simply exist. The earth is waiting to hold you. The grass is soft. Imagine laying down in the center of the circle. The ground supports you completely. You sink into it. The earth rises up to meet you. The stones stand above you, dark silhouettes against the Milky Way, eternal sentinels guarding your rest. They have stood for 5,000 years. They will stand for 5,000 more. They can carry the weight of the world so that you don't have to. You can. Put your burden down. You can leave it on the altar stone. And so, the great stones stand silent once more, keeping their ancient watch under the stars. We close the heavy book, and the dust settles. You can let go now. The history is written, and the night is yours. You are warm, you are safe, and the fire here has burned down to glowing embers. If you wish to remain within our walls, or return to this sanctuary tomorrow, simply subscribe, and we will be here waiting for you. Sleep now, drift away. Good night.